If I was to start this journey again and be shopping for a Jaguar F Type, what would I do differently? I've already spoken about why I chose this F Type, why this particular one, but if I was starting from scratch, what would I change? And as always, if you're not subscribed to the channel already, please think about dropping a sub by hitting that button down below, and stay tuned. Now there must be a million combinations of how you could spec one of these by the time you've gone through colours, internal options, external options. There really must just be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of different ways you could configure one of these. Now I spent a lot of time looking for this exact car. I wanted things like the colour, the fixed spoiler, the interior, the facelifted seats, the list goes on, and I've spoken about that in a lot of detail in a previous video. But if I was in the market again, knowing what I know now, what would I do differently? So first off the bat, I would have PPF'd at least the front half of the car, if not the whole of the car. It's taken a bit of a battering. Anybody who watches the channel recently knows I'm pretty meticulous in looking after this car. I'm very careful about how it's driven. I won't even park it in the supermarket car park. But the front of this car, I don't know what it is, it's just the shape or something. It really takes a battering. I don't tailgate people, I always leave plenty of room, but it's just covered in stone chips. Now this is probably going to be really hard to show on camera, but the front of the car, there you go, you can just about see that in the changing light. It's taken a battering here, that's really sad. There's one here, or two, crikey, two there, that have gone all the way down to the metal. Same here, these have gone all the way through the primer to the metal. And then when you get to the front of the car, all of this is road rash, all of it. And I don't know what it is, if it's just the shape of the car, the way, I don't know, the angle of attack, if you want to call it that, but it just takes a battering. The next place that people experience a lot of road rash is here, and I've been quite lucky in that this is pretty clean. There is a tiny bit of PPF that comes out the factory as standard, but a lot of people report getting up here, so at a minimum it's probably a good idea to do here as well. So why didn't I get it PPF'd? Well, yeah, I've been asking myself the same question ever since I found all of these road rash damages on the front of the car. Two reasons, I guess. Number one, to have a full car PPF'd, you're probably looking at about £5,000. And then the front half, which is sort of the bumper, the bonnet or the hood, and not applicable here because we've got the glass roof, but sort of like the first half at least of the roof, that would have been about £3,000, so it's a lot of money. And at the time I took the approach that, well, hey, if it gets that bad, I'll just get it repainted. And I'm beginning to think that's the wrong attitude, because nobody likes having their whole car repainted. But it was a decision I made at the time, and one that I now have to live with, because we are where we are. Now, it's not horrendous, but as I said, anyone who watches this channel knows how meticulous I am in looking after this car, and it's just a bit saddening. Next up is the brakes. Now these are the performance brakes, they come as standard on the R, but anyone who's familiar with the F Type will know that there is another model of brake that is above that, and that is the carbon ceramics. Now I made a decision when shopping for the car that I wanted one without carbon ceramics. I actively found a car that didn't have them, and I'm regretting that choice. Now, are those brakes bad? No, absolutely not. They're incredible. They're really good brakes actually, as far as it goes, but they just don't look as good as the carbon ceramics. That yellow caliper, the six-pot or six-piston caliper with the carbon ceramic discs, it just looks incredible. So if I love them that much, why did I actively go and find a car without them? Yeah, good question. I was really concerned about the in-life costs of running carbon ceramic brakes. A new set of rotors and pads on all four corners will run you probably the best part of about £8,000, and that's eye-watering. So I actively chose a car that didn't have them. Now, learning a bit more and knowing what I know now, the expected life cycle of carbon ceramic discs, if they're well looked after and properly maintained, is about 100,000 miles, which this car is very unlikely to ever do. So unless they get damaged through some environmental impacts, there's no need for those carbon discs and pads to be changed. So there we go. That is my second regret. Now, third is blind spot monitoring. It was really hard to find a used car with blind spot monitoring built into it. It's an option you can spec from the factory, of course, but trying to find one with this specification and the blind spot monitoring was nigh on impossible. Trust me, I was looking for nearly 2 years for this car. But there's still hope. It can be retrofitted. There's some modules that go behind the bumper here, some radar bits. I think it might need the loom changing back here and of course the new mirrors, but it is possible and people have done it. Shout out to Damien, thank you very much for your help with that. So that is on the list. It's quite a big job. It's going to be quite invasive. It's going to need coding to the car through the computer and the Jaguar software. So it's one that's on the horizon and I need to get round to. Now, whilst we're talking about wiring looms, let's talk about the headlights. And no, I'm not upset with the LEDs. They are incredible, especially when driving at night. They're just so bright and crisp. But it's the auto high beam assist. You can just about see that sensor there, and that's for the rain sensing wipers. Now, a lot of F types have 2 cameras here, and that's what that black, I don't know if you can make that out, but that black outline is for there. 2 cameras. And what that does is it detects oncoming traffic. Now, because this is a crossover year, this is a 2018 model year car that was built in the late part of 2017, it doesn't have those cameras in the windscreen there. So I've been working with a few different people from retrofit companies to try and work out the best way to get that fitted. And it's a big job. We're looking at potentially having to change the cabin loom, which is a huge task in its own right, before then also fitting a different windscreen. And it just begs the question, is it actually really worth having high beam assist at that point? So if I was in the market again, I'd probably be a bit more particular, knowing what I know now about getting one with those cameras in. And that is it, genuinely. I feel like I put a lot of time and research into buying this car, so most things I feel like I had my finger on the pulse with, but as I've gone through ownership and learnt more about these cars and the way they were built, I just feel like those little bits, if I'd have known those almost 2 years ago when buying this car, it would have probably changed my decision. But do I regret it? No, absolutely not. It's a lovely car. I'm very lucky to have it. Very fortunate to be able to drive this car, and I feel like all that hard work I put in up front, finding the right car, has paid off. So they are things I can look at doing in the future. You can buy carbon ceramic brakes, for example. I'm already looking at the blind spot monitoring, maybe the high beam assist, but who knows. But hopefully that information will help you on your journey when you are looking for your ideal F type. But that's it for another video. Thank you for tuning in. If you're not already, please sub to the channel by hitting that button down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. What is wrong with people? Why? It's tiny, look. Why? It's not even worth leaving behind. It's not taking up any room in your car. Take it home.